Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Bowl Predictions here at Inside Nebraska. Before we get going, encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all of these videos and press conference footage and game analysis dropped directly into your feed. We're like 80 some subscribers away from 10K. We're almost at the 10K mark, boys. Hell of a journey, 2.5 years after building it from scratch. So we're proud of that. Can't wait till we hit that mark. It's gonna be fun. So with me, as always, for these videos, Steve Mark, Tim Vergeese. I'm Zack Carpenter. Fellas, so I was listening to your guys. I always try to listen to the Nebraska Football Show, and another plug for our YouTube channel. These guys do a Nebraska Football Show that comes out every Wednesday. It's impossible to say objectively, but objectively, I think it's the best. Game breakdowns, X's and O's analysis, football side of things on the beat. So I always try to listen to it, try to pull one or two things from there, and sounded like the overall tenor from you guys is kind of what I expected from you guys, kind of where I am too, is not you guys aren't in panic mode, but you're concerned. Not panic, but concerned. So that's why I kind of wanted to start off this episode with is Steve. I mean, what's I guess number one overarching concern, whether it's program wide or X's and O's wides. I mean, especially after we talked with Rule and Satterfield and White this week.
Yeah, I mean, like I said on the pod, I don't it's not like a Matt Rule thing with me. Like I'm not off of Matt Rule now. I still think he's a great head coach and master motivator and the correct guy for what this program needs right now. So it's nothing with that, but just coming out of that game with Indiana, I think maybe it just has me questioning a lot more things inside of his program, coordinator wise, chief among them. And we can get into it later, but yeah, it just maybe seems that, Rule's staff is, like, I it's hard to talk about, maybe put it into words because I like the players on the field, that Nebraska has. But sometimes I don't think that they're being used in the correct ways. And then, what's that tell you? That's a coaching issue then.
The
So,
put in position to succeed is that phrase that we always use. That's how you
mhm.
know that there's good coaching. That's how you know there's. Um, I think that's the best way that we hear it is the best way to not just win over the locker room, but have a cohesive team. As if you're being put in the best position to succeed. It feels
Mhm.
like maybe not everybody program wide on both sides um, is being put in that position to succeed.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with that. And offensively and then defensively too, with listening to Tony White kind of just admit his wrongdoings in that game and basically say that he was doing some dumb stuff out there schematically. So he was taking ownership of it. It was another poor performance defensively against a ranked opponent. He had another one of those against Illinois earlier in the season. And obviously, we can get into what Marcus Satterfield did to go viral on social media with his yards per play in answer. I guess it was not an answer. He didn't know. Usually offensive coordinators would have a goal in mind to hit with their yards per play during a game, during a season. He did not have a goal in mind. So that's kind of scary a little bit if you're an offensive coordinator who's getting paid a lot of money to design and direct an offense, doesn't have a goal in mind. So we can talk about that more. But yeah, I just left the Indiana game with a little bit more questions than I had going into it. And that's not a good thing midway through Matt Rule's year too, but it's not a Matt Rule thing at the end of the day.
Do you think so? I missed that part of the press conference until it went viral. Now I'm having trouble remembering. Did he say that they didn't have a preseason goal going in mind, or a preseason goal in mind going into?
So Marcus Satterfield was asked if he had a goal in mind of a specific yards per play statistic to like hit. I don't know if that was like, I don't know the question, if it was like on a per game basis or like for the season, if he has just a statistic in mind that he wants to hit. And he said around 4 or 6, and 4 yards per play would obviously be very bad and towards the bottom of the country.
I think it
And
was
then
like
six
second worst in
six
the
would
country or something like that.
yeah, and 6 would be middle of the pack of the country. So nothing that you can like maybe point at and say that's like a good goal to hit. So right now they're at 5.54 yards per play. Not great right now. It's 14th in Big Ten. And So we obviously know about Nebraska's struggles on offense. So that was just kind of like a eye-opening moment in a press conference, unfortunately, for the offensive coordinator. So, Tim, I mean, what did you think of Marcus Satterfield's yards per play? Kind of, I don't want to say conspiracy, just trying to be funny with it, but his unanswer, his in answer,
His
Yeah,
non-answer
I
answer.
non-answer. That's what I'm trying to get at.
yeah, I think it's like the fact that the offensive coordinator, I don't think it's a big of a deal that the offensive coordinator doesn't know the exact yards per play that Nebraska's averaging or where they rank. Because I don't think, I would say I don't think, I know for a fact coaches aren't going and looking at the ESPN statistics after games the way that fans do. They have statistics that help with their breakdowns and they have analytics that they use, but they don't know these numbers off the top of their head. They use the film to break down the games and adjust and recalibrate. That being said, I do think it's a little weird that he doesn't have like a goal in mind,
Mhm.
and that when asked for a goal, he said a number that is relatively average, like that's an average offense. Um, and with the weapons you have, with the quarterback you have, like you should be achieving for more. And again, I think another issue there, 4 to 6, if hypothetically, if you're asking an offense coordinator how many yards do you want to gain per play, I think everyone would answer somewhere between 4 and 6. It goes back to the old three. If you average 4 yards per play, you're going to pick up a first down, every 3 plays. But I don't think he was. I think he. I don't know if he understood like the question just in the form of like, are you looking at it from the big national average or just how many yards are you trying to average every single play? And so I don't think that quote individually is super, super damning, but I think the press conference in the whole, between his tone, between just the non-answers on that and other things, and just admitting, hey, these like, I think the more damning question and response is um him recognizing the perimeter blocking's been an issue, but still trying plays 7 games into the season where that are reliant on, guys blocking guys in space when you know that's something your offense is not good at doing right now.
And the commitment to the run game, which
Right.
is year
That too.
two. And now he's saying, I need to trust myself to commit to the run game more. It's like, well, you were here last year too. Like you've been in the Big
Right.
Ten like for 2 years, for 2 seasons now. You understand how this conference works. So that is why I think a lot of people were rubbed the wrong way of him kind of admitting that he just wants to throw the ball too much and he
Right.
should be handing the football off and helping out the offense that way, which would in turn help out the true freshman quarterback who has struggled lately.
Yeah, I think obviously there's the viral embarrassing moment that everybody saw, which is like you guys said concerning. But I do think the too late to the party thing with Satterfield talking so many times about how we need to be able to create explosive plays, explosives through the air, explosives through the passing game, and talking about we need to throw the ball downfield, we need to be able to pass the ball downfield, and all those things that he said so many times throughout the offseason. Um, it was a little startling to hear then now, like, yeah, it's me. It's probably a me thing. I need to be more committed to the run game or whatever exact words were, where it's like that was just such a shift. I felt like um, from how he normally assesses things in those press conference settings, and it's like it was notable to be like, oh, that sort of sounded like a message from up top from the head coach to me. That's was sort of my interpretation, like where it's like coach said, like with Matt Rule telling him, you gotta stay committed to this. We need to put our guys, like I said, better position for success. I don't know. That's just how I interpret it. Could be totally off. Who knows? I think you guys have a better um, more calculated perspective on it than I do. But with that, we're going to sloppily transition into a game where, honestly, Nebraska is going to have a run game. They're going to have to if they want to stay competitive for 3+ quarters, for 4 quarters. Tim, you and I talked about this yesterday. Of you cannot get into a shootout with Ohio State and expect to stay it within to. I mean, dare I say, can't expect to beat Ohio State. Should I whisper that? You can't expect to stay competitive with a team like that if you're trying to get in a shootout. So I don't know, Steve. I see this as as the best laid plan for Nebraska would have to be more of like the Colorado game plan last year, where they were trying to control clock, control pace, and they were in the first half of that game, just the turnovers that doomed them. I feel like we're gonna see more of a style like that. That to me would behoove them the most right now is to try um have a game go like that with the pace and the ball control like we saw before. So I mean 25.5 point spread. Ohio State obviously a massive favorite, 48.5 over under. So we're getting into bold predictions. Just what's your first one? I don't know if it has to do with the run game, pass game, something on the defensive side. What do you got first?
I totally agree that Nebraska needs to run the ball more and just like stick with it, even if it's not really working. Hopefully those 2 and 3 yard runs pay off in the second half of maybe 5 and 6 yard runs, but just really just to keep the ball on the ground and keep the clock running and keep that off Ohio State offense on the sideline. I think that's obviously going to be the game plan with playing as good as defense as you can against these guys. But for my bold prediction, after I just got done talking about running the football, I'm going to go with my the passing game too. So look, I don't think it's going to go well running the football against Ohio State. So I think Dylan Raiola is going to have to be asked to take to the air quite often. And considering how many times Isaiah Nair and Jamal Banks, Nebraska's top 2 targets on the outside, big body guys, how little of an impact they have been making lately as the season has gone on and as the defenses have gotten tougher. Thomas Fidone, he had his career day last week at Indiana. He caught 6 passes for 91 yards. Those are both career highs. I think Thomas Fidone continues to make an impact in the middle of the field. And I think Dylan Raiola, really kind of maybe found something with Thomas Fidone. So I think my bold prediction for this Ohio State game is Thomas Fidone catches 7 receptions, which would be a career high, and 105 receiving yards. I think he eclipses 100 yards receiving for the first time in his career, and that's going to be a career high too. And I think he finds the end zone as well. So might as well just tack on a touchdown as well. So I just think with the problems on the outside with Banks and Nair and how Big Ten defenses have really kind of figured out how to take them away, whether that's just jamming them at the line of scrimmage and they're not able to get clean releases or holding on the ball and dropping it when they have it in their hands, not being strong-handed with the ball. I think Thomas Fidone is that third kind of option in the middle of the field that Dylan Raiola found some success with last week, and I think it continues against Ohio State. So that's my bold prediction. Thomas Fidone continues to set career highs in receptions and receiving yards against Ohio State.
Yeah, it's sort of pick your poison with this Ohio State defense when they're. I mean, we all agree that the going off of the PFF grades is a dangerous road to go down where it's not the most accurate. We'll be polite today, but I mean, I guess but they're not going to be so far off that it's like you're ranked 10th in the country in one grade, one metric, and in reality, you should be like 60th. So at least it gives you some sort of snapshot. And Ohio State's in the top 5 on those for run defense grade, for overall defensive grade, but they're top 5 in pass rush, and they're like 21st in pass coverage rate, and then their team defensive statistics in the Big Ten are equally as impressive. So yeah, I hear what you're saying with the ground game, maybe not even going to be able to get.
We'll see.
Going, so.
we can get into, if they don't want to do it with if they can't do it with 22 personnel with a couple tight ends out there with Barrett Liebentritt at fullback, maybe that creates more opportunities for Heinrich Harburg and having that offense spread out Ohio State's defense. And if you can't block Ohio State's defense, try to read somebody on Ohio State's defense, and maybe that creates more room for the running back. That'll help out the offensive line, blocking the defensive line. That'll help the running backs with more room to run. So you're not getting that option with Dylan Raiola back there. But then that's a question of like how often are you playing Heinrich Haarberg compared to Dylan Raiola? So it's just I don't know what the answers are right here. So we'll see how sad it attacks us on Saturday.
Yeah, they're number 2 in the Big Ten and rushing defense,
Yeah.
number 1 and number 4 in pass defense, and number 1 in total defense. So probably number 1 in scoring defense. So tough task today or on Saturday. With that being said, Tim, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm flipping over to the defensive side of the ball. I've liked the way, we talked a lot about Marcus Satterfield's press conference on Tuesday, but I like the way Tony White kind of owned his mistakes, recognized what went wrong, and had decisive answers on what went wrong and how to adjust. After the Illinois game earlier this year, he came out and responded and had the defense playing fired up the week after. You go and look back at last year after that Michigan game, they came out against Illinois and played really well again. And it starts up front. And, I think going up against an Ohio State O-line that's going to be playing their first full game without star left tackle Josh Simmons, who's out for the season. Already, if you wanted to point at a unit on this Ohio State team that is lacking, again, this is arguably the best roster in football in the sport right now. But if you're looking at one area of the roster that's lacking a little bit, it would be the offensive line. And I think Nebraska's going to have an opportunity. So my bold prediction is Nebraska gets after Will Howard and sacks him 3 times. I think watching Howard this year, you can see that he has a tendency to at times hold on to the ball a little too long. It doesn't really he's got a really good pass catching unit, from tight ends to receivers and to the backs he's got in the back. But when it comes down to him having to process and make decisions, I think that's when you can confuse him a little bit and get him rattled a little bit. So I say, between Ty Robinson, Nash Hutmacher, James Williams, and the crew, I think they come out firing on Saturday, try and get after Howard a little bit. And I think specifically get at that backup left tackle a little bit.
Yeah, I remember, I can't remember what TNFS show you guys did where you guys were talking about the Ohio State game briefly, probably the one of the bye week episodes, but talking about that sort of that would be Nebraska's best hope to stay in the Ohio State game is in the trenches defensive line going against Ohio State's offensive line, because for much of a juggernaut program and powerhouse program that Ohio State is, that's at least the one area where maybe you can attack it and expose maybe some vulnerabilities is the Nebraska defensive line, which was supposed to be the strength, was arguably the strength of this team going into the season against the Ohio State offensive line. That was the biggest weak point on a very strong team. Now you're losing the guy that Ohio State could probably least afford to lose. That's not just for me saying. I've Austin Ward at Ohio State Rivals site. Shout out Austin. I know you're not listening, but if you are, what's up, buddy? Mm-hmm. That's what I was going off of. I was like, how's the reaction over at Ohio State to losing Josh Simmons? And he said, at the risk of overreaction, Josh Simmons might well be the one player Ohio State couldn't afford to lose. Now, is it going to come back to rear its ugly or to bite them in this game? Probably not overall, but maybe in some spots. That's why I think Tim, your 3+ sack prediction is something I could see happening, and that's the best avenue I think for Nebraska to cause some chaos and keep it close as a 1-score game going into halftime, and then you see what comes after that. Maybe then you have a 1 or 2-score game going into the fourth quarter, but it's going to have to be wreaking havoc on that. Probably on that side of the line. I mean, what we see, Steve? Kydron Jenkins in the Purdue game when Nebraska's left tackle went down and you're starting a true freshman.
Go after him.
Get some matchups. Yeah.
And this is a Chip Kelly offense now too. And, they're coming off the bye week. They're upset too with how that Oregon game played out. So they're going to be wanting to make a statement, in my opinion, too. And, they're rushing for over 200 yards per game as well. Nebraska just gave up 224 rushing yards if you take out the sack yardage. And Nebraska's pass rush just did not get home to Curtis Rourke often, even though James Williams was the one who caused Curtis Rourke to have that thumb issue that he's working through right now. So shout out James Williams for doing that, even though I like Curtis Rourke, so I take that back. But anyway,
Yeah. I was about to say, like, hold on,
yeah, that sounded
let's
bad. Maybe
rewind
we
it.
can cut that. We won't cut it. But
we don't cut it.
We don't cut anything. But yeah, so just Nebraska giving up 224 yards on the ground, that makes you kind of just nervous and wondering what Chip Kelly rushing offense is going to do. And I just go back to that Oregon game and how Ohio State lost by one point, and now they're coming off a bye week. They have all this time to prepare. We saw what Nebraska looked like with all that time to prepare. It didn't look good, but something tells me Ohio State is going to look different coming out of their bye week, and I just think that they're going to be wanting to make a statement and put up a lot of yards and a lot of points. So we're going to see how what Matt Rule's program is really made of on Saturday. What Tony White's defense is really made of too.
Yeah, real quick, I'm going to go with my bold prediction because it's related to the ground game and something you touched on, Steve, is Heinrich Haarberg. I mean, Steve, you're the one who asked the question, the last question in the Matt Rule press conference on Monday about Heinrich Haarberg, and then I think we got maybe an answer from Rule when he called quarterback run game a great equalizer, a great equalizer, where if you're this out talented, this outmanned against an Ohio State team where they have 2 5-star defensive linemen and JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, and then Tyleik Williams, 4-star day 1, day 2, or round 1, 2, 3, whatever the NFL mock drafts have him at. Tyleik Williams in the middle, and then a bunch of other 4-star guys along that line who have developed well. If you're that outmanned, outgunned, then try to create some sort of man advantage. And a quarterback run game, I think, could be an answer. Like you said on your guys' show on Wednesday, like, no, you're not going to start Heinrich Haarberg. You're not going to have him be in charge of leading the team down the field, like in charge of the offense, not the number one unit, not in the when it's still a game. You're not going to be doing that, but I think maybe get him in for more quarterback run game packages. I think we could see maybe some trick plays. I mean, I talked about the Ja'Cory Barney. That was my bold prediction for the Rutgers game, is that Ja'Cory Barney throws a touchdown pass. Or I think I said completes a pass to Alex Bullock. Maybe I might have said touchdown pass, went a little bolder. Maybe we see that in this game too, or at least an attempt at it. Trying to, I mean, that's what happens. It doesn't feel like in so many of the biggest upsets we see one trick play. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I have boys.
I don't know how the fan base is going to react after the Marcus Satterfield thing this week. If he pulls out a wide receiver pass,
yeah, maybe
that might not go over too well.
I mean,
depending on if it's caught or not, I don't know.
Yeah, the Isaiah Nair end around too didn't exactly go as hope. Was a 7-yard loss on that one.
And forgot to block that one up too.
Yeah. So mine's Heinrich Haarberg getting. I guess I didn't even come prepared with the exact prediction. I just knew I wanted to do something with the quarterback run game. I'll say 5 carries, 3 of them pick up a first down. How's that?
There you go.
Does that sound fine?
Yeah.
Does that sound good to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he ends up with 30 plus rushing yards. I don't know, but that was when we saw it against Indiana, that drive when they're down 7-0 and Dante Dowdell converts the 4th down but fumbles. 2 plays before that was that an option play?
Yeah, I think it was just a speed option, and Heinrich probably could have pitched it, but he kept it, got 8 yards, 4th and 1. Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing when I saw him, like, maybe he could have kept going, then pitched it, but it's like, hey, he got upfield, he got his ass upfield and did what Heinrich
put the
Haarberg
offense
does.
in a position to be successful, and the offense did not be successful after that. So
yeah, exactly. So I think we could see that more. So I'll say 5 carries for Heinrich Haarberg, 3 of them pick up a first down, because why not? So we got about 5 minutes left here, so ring around the rosy here, Steve. What's your score prediction for Saturday? Again, Ohio State minus 25.5. Over under is 48.5.
I have Ohio State winning 35-7. This is going to be a big game for Matt Rule's program. Just to how they respond to what happened last week in that disaster in Bloomington. How are they going to respond? Nobody's picking them. Nobody's giving them a chance. Nobody's thinking anything of Nebraska right now. Everybody's talking about who's going to be fired, who should be fired, all that stuff, all that noise surrounding the program. There's just a lot of noise right now, and it's got to be hard on everybody inside the program right now because everybody's on their phones, everybody's on social media, even though they say they aren't, they are. So how they come out against one of the best teams in the entire country, and how they compete. They may not win the game, but will they compete? Will the game be a 60-7 type score, or will it be more of like a 35-7 type thing? If it's like a 35-7 type thing, I think that's pretty good considering what just happened last weekend, and that shows that they're competing and they're trying and they have maybe just kind of hunkered down and did what they needed to do on the road, and then they get to come back home and play UCLA, which is a very winnable game for sure. So 35-7, Ohio State Buckeyes get the win.
Survive in advance is usually a term reserved for obviously NCAA tournament, and meaning you survive the game, win it, and move on to the next one. But I think this one's a survive in advance, like survive the game, don't get embarrassed for a second week in a row in the big noon kickoff national spotlight, and advance to go play UCLA and play out the rest of your schedule and see what happens. So, Tim, what do we got?
Yeah, I've got 38-14, somewhat along the same lines. I think mainly I'm just looking for Nebraska to fight. Like, I think that was the most alarming thing of last week. If you want to point to one specific thing that was alarming was Nebraska's just lack of fight and lack of physicality. Under Matt Rule, they pride themselves on being the most physical team, and they're not going to be against Ohio State. That just is, they are outmanned in the Jimmys and Joes department this week. That's just at every single level practically. So, but you want to see them play physical. You want to see them fight. You want to see them play competitive football. So, I'll say they score 2 touchdowns, but obviously lose in a 38-14 is kind of where I see it.
Yeah, I have 38-17 Ohio State because that was the score I was thinking about when I was mapping out sort of the season. I didn't have any coming into the season. I didn't have final score predictions like in my head for any game, but this one. But when you see at Ohio State in for a second straight road game coming off the Indiana trip, and see at Ohio State, like, all right, they're going to be number 1, 2, 3 team in the country. They're number 4. But I was thinking that, okay, like you start looking at it, they just need to be competitive in that game going into the in the second half and be within 1 or 2 scores. Like, and that's what I thought when we were sitting here in August. That's what I still feel. But 38-17 was the score that just stuck out. I'm like, that just feels right. Maybe it doesn't feel as right as it once did, but whatever. I had Nebraska losing at Indiana going into the season when I thought Indiana would be a 6-6, 7-5 team, like better than most predict or expect, but still not. And see this coming with how they've been firing on all cylinders. But so I stuck with that. I'm sticking with 38-17. Nebraska, a couple notes before we get out of here. They were the favorite in the first 6 games of the season, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First 6 games of the season. And then they have been the underdog in the last 2. They, as an underdog, obviously are 0-1 after losing last week. And they're 4-1-1 as a favorite. And the under is hit in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 7 games. And I'm going over, naturally. Because why not bet against trend? So, any last thoughts? Steve, Tim, say something smart to get us out of here so we can end on an exclamation point instead of a period or an ellipses.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think they're going to lose. I think everybody thinks they're going to lose, but yeah, just interested in how they come out and the fight that they show. Are they competitive? Is it going to be 60-something-0, or is it going to be 30-something-7, 30-something-14? If it's 30-something-14, I think that's a good sign for everybody.
Yeah, same thing. I just again, I want to see fight. I want to see again, you this season has been all about baby steps, and I think the next baby step is, again, how do you get up off the mat when you face a loss like that? going into another tough opponent, going to another road game. Again, like I just think that there's at a certain level, it's a very, very hard world to see Nebraska winning this game or playing close in this game. But you want to see fight, you want to see, guys giving effort, and that's something that lacked last week, but hasn't lacked all season. So I'm expecting a bounce back, at least in terms of performance. But again, the score will be what the score is.
Wait, Steve, weather report? Do you have one?
I do not. Do you?
Does anybody care? Does it matter?
I don't know. It's not Columbus, Nebraska. It's
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio. So if it's Columbus, Nebraska, I think it'd be around like 70 degrees actually. But I don't know about Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah, Columbus. I think I took a look at it. No rain, like 10-mile-an-hour wind max. So, and I think it's going to be in the 70s. It doesn't matter. Weather report doesn't matter this week. We're always wrong on the weather report anyway. Sorry,
Yeah.
Steve, to ruin
No,
your expertise.
no, I
as a
mean, hey, I
meteorologist.
said it was like going to be close to 100 degrees for the Rutgers game, and it was. So
Hey, there you go. There you
There
go.
you go.
Got one prediction right as a
Credit to
team at
me.
Inside Nebraska. So that's going to do it here for us. Again, I encourage you guys to like this video, subscribe to the Inside Nebraska YouTube channel, get all these videos dropped directly into your feed. For Steve Mark and Tim Verghese, I'm Zack Carpenter. We'll catch you guys again next time.